Now, like that greenhouse, I'm gonna try and splice this in with that greenhouse thing. This is what some of those shed kits look like. Okay, most of these are that Rubbermaid roughneck system. They're relatively heavy duty, usually 8 by 8, 10 by 10 shed, about as big as they possibly get. A lot of this is a 325 square foot. Um, Trying to tell what that is on the feet thing. 7 foot 2 inches. It's an 8 by 8. It's a little small on an 8 by 8. But you can see this thing hauls on a single load in the bed of a pickup truck. And then some of these have a system where you can extend the length by modular. I think they come in at about 8 feet wide, and then you get these little 2 foot sections, and you can make the thing bigger as you add these 2 foot sections. And the 2.5 foot extension kit, and then you got the end kit. I forget what the whole thing goes for, but if you start looking at the numbers, it's not all that cost effective. They're not super durable. They're okay, but the plastic shed option is it's okay for outbuildings. I mean, I put those up. They're really good for renters because they can be taken down and moved to a new place. So if somebody looks at living in a place for not super long term, let's say they rent, they can take these things apart and move them. They're not bank-breakingly expensive, $400 to $600, depending on how you work your deal on those things. But the expandable nature that is, it's an option. Not my favorite option, but I've actually built these for some people, and it can work. You can get you're limited to that 8 foot wide, but you can make them longer, like the 15 foot one. And if I'm not mistaken, you don't pay $200 for every additional couple of feet once you're buying a larger section. You do get a better deal when you're getting into the larger sections. When you're talking about those wood building kits, that's about what they look like. Okay, so like this was the 10 by 10, which is where you're starting to get into something that maybe you could put a bed loft in. It's still pushing it, okay? And 798, 998. Not quite sure what the difference is on these. Could have been whether or not it had a window or something like that. And or let's see, well, 10 by 8. Oh, I'm sorry, that was this little squarish one. And that's not a terrible building. That was that first one I was in, and the other thing, I think. Buy that as a kid, fits in a bed of a pickup truck or a trailer. You get it out, a couple of reasonably handy guys can build that in a weekend. Is it a super good building? No. It's also going to require another truckload of stuff of equal or slightly larger size just to fill out the interior. But it gives you an idea of what that module looks like. It can work. My advice would be that if you're really only thinking about doing this on a shit hit the fan basis, leave it in the crate. Just leave it in the crate. Just build one of them, store the other ones in a crate right there in the thing. If you can get the use of a forklift to stack them on top of each other, or even on shelving like this, just leave all that stuff in the crate. You may put up stone buildings or something else, and if you leave these in the crate, it's a gamble on whether or not the stuff's going to get stolen. But what's not going to happen is it's probably not going to have a situation where vermin take up residence. The other thing you got to realize is I'm 90% certain these kits do not include the floor, and for the roof they're only going to have that particle board sheathing. They're not going to have the actual roofing material. They'll come in a color that you see, but I'm 90% certain you still got to go buy shingles for these most of the time.